I don't even know what's going on,
That's right.
which is par for the course sometimes.
Of course. I was just having a conversation out back with a good friend of mine, Chuck DeWolf, and we were just talking about the legend of Bagger Vance.
Nice.
Par for the course. It's kind of funny. All right. Actually, I have to adjust my situation here. Pardon me.
Adjust your situation.
That's right.
That sounds kind of kinky.
Well, that was not my intention. So let's talk about what's going on in the minds of our perfect customers. Hopefully it's nothing kinky. So
Yeah, right.
Joshua, you were kind of inspired about this topic. So what's on your mind? How do you know what your clients, your customers, your prospects are thinking? How do you get better at understanding what their wants, what their needs, what their desires are, the conversation that's going on in their head around their life and or around the types of products or services that you might have to offer? What have you learned over the years on this?
Well, I mean, obviously, the only way to know for sure is to engage with them and actually find out, what are they thinking? How do they have it? What's the inner narrative that is going on in there? But throughout the years, I've noticed that there's certain themes to these conversations, certain, they fall under certain categories during the relationship building process. And in terms of like, if you want to go from complete stranger to have influence over folk, it's been my observation that there's about 7 different themes to mental conversations. And Robert Collier talked about like, if you want to be able to influence somebody, you've got to enter the conversation that they're already having in their mind before you can hope to, lead them anywhere else. And I think that we have a tendency to forget that fact, that we have a tendency to just think in terms of what we're trying to communicate and whether somebody's able to engage where we are or where they are with what we have to say means that they have to be open and they have to have a theme about the conversation that is either taking place about you personally or about the conversation itself, such that they'll even be open to listening. And, I think we've all experienced this where, where we are more open than other times or more distant than other times. And also, I can't tell you how many times Kathy will say something to me and I will respond positively or whatever, but I have no idea what she just said.
Right.
And the reason is that she has not stopped to see what was going on inside my head. And I don't want to be rude to her, but at the same time, I've got this whole mental narrative that's going on and train of thought. So that's why I was thinking about that. And I think that it's a common thing, particularly in Facebook, to assume that people are already looking to hear from you and looking to hear from you about what it is that you're talking to them about. And while that's probably pretty true on, with what we're doing here on our personal profiles and with the live streams, because it's starting to attract a following and such, when you get into paid advertising, for example, on Facebook, and you start targeting people, they don't have that. You don't know what that is that's going on. You don't know if they're predisposed to listen to you based on the subject matter or not. And they probably are predisposed to tune you out if they don't know you, in that regard. So with that, I will stop yapping.
It's a really interesting point. And I'd like to throw this out there to everyone who is watching right now is, what are the challenges that you're having right now in connecting with your perfect clients or customers or understanding what they need? Or are there challenges that you might have around conversion? How is this coming up in your life or in your business right now? We want to hear from you.
Yeah. Great point.
And I'd like some real practical examples. If you're interested in connecting at a deeper level and understanding truly what your clients and customers are going through and what they need, then elaborate in the comments. Let us know what you're struggling with, what you're challenged by, and we'll do our best to address those either today on our live stream, which is going to be short, by the way. We're only going to be going for another probably 10 minutes, or in a future live stream. I found that as I get older, maybe I'm getting wiser, I hope. I've found that most people, men and women and everyone anywhere on the spectrum in between, I found that most people, most of the time, if they're taking the time to actually tell you, to communicate with you about their problems, their challenges, and their frustrations, maybe they're on the phone with you, maybe you're having a instant messenger conversation, maybe it's in a heated back and forth reply thread on Facebook about a political topic. I mean, there's all sorts of places where conversation can be created. It can happen in an email exchange with your list. In any medium, these conversations can start. But once a client, a customer, a prospect begins to share with you what's actually going on in their life, what I realized was that, and this can be with a friend, it can be with a family member. This is people. This is a basic human thing. Once they're willing to share with you, I think what they're doing is they're like, oh, I trust this person enough to share with them, and hopefully that they're going to care enough to listen.
Right.
And are they going to care enough to listen? Or are they going to interrupt me, cut me off, and not actually take in what
do you mean?
And when you do take the time to genuinely listen, and what I'm calling is not react. That doesn't mean be deadpan and be stoned, but like not try to have to fix the problem, not suggest a fix to the problem before they're done with their sentence. Right. Not jump all the way ahead just because you've solved the same problem 200 times before, or you think you have, or I think I have.
Right.
But actually take that time to listen. That's what builds trust. Okay. And so if you're taking the time to listen, you truly understand what your people are going through and what they're challenged by. You feed that back to them so that they know and they understand. And then you ask them if they want a solution, and they say yes, and then you give them the solution. What happens is, at that point, people are extremely open to what you have to offer. But there's another thing that happens that's going to make your future so much easier, which is now you know how that conversation goes. And this is the next adage, which is people trust you. If you can explain, talk about, communicate the problems and challenges that your prospects are facing in a more clear way that they can, if you can tell their story better than they can tell it, instant authority, instant trust. But that can only happen after you've listened, but not to one person, 1,000 people, right? And at that point, you can tell the story, whether or not they're open and willing to share with you and to trust you yet and to tell you what's up. You can tell the story of a previous client or customer or situation that's the exact same scenario. And again, instant trust, they didn't even need to open their mouth. So that's kind of how the process works over time with a new business, a new product, a new service, a new tribe, a new group of people that you're selling to or creating momentum around. Taking the time to stop and listen and just take it in is one of the best ways that you can truly connect, both on an individual level and on a group level, with your ideal clients and customers.
Yep, I totally agree. And something to consider in all of this as well is that in order to get to the point where you can listen, where they're even willing to talk to you, there's a certain level of relationship that needs to be established. And so those are certain levels of or themes of conversation that you need to overcome, that they are having either about you personally before they get to know you. And so if you've already built up enough rapport where when they hear from you, or when they get a communication from you, there is a tendency to be open to that communication, then you've already leapfrogged over several of the themes of the relationship building process, of the mental conversations that are taking place. Mm-hmm. And so just to kind of piggyback onto something that you said earlier, like if you're having trouble building relationships or building trust or rapport or that type of thing, yes, that's one symptom of this. However, you may be not aware of some of the problems that this type of a process could evoke. I should say that you may be unaware that that some of the problems that you're experiencing, for example, if you're not getting the kind of opt-in rates that you're looking for, if you're not getting the kind of click-through rates on your ads that you're looking for, if you're not getting the kind of viewership that you'd like to be getting on your live streams, whatever the case may be, the very often you can trace it back to you not matching the mental conversations, the narrative that is already going on inside the heads and the minds and the hearts of the people that you are looking to communicate with. And they've automatically tuned you out because their theme doesn't match with listening to what you have to say. So a lot of the same problems.
Oop. Joshua, you froze up there for a second.
Am I back?
Let's see. Okay, you are back. You said a lot of the same problems. Yeah, a lot of the same problems is where you trailed off there for a sec.
So a lot of the problems that you think are problems, or that really are problems that you're trying to solve, that you might think has nothing to do with building rapport and relationship, has everything to do with how you're meeting them in the mental narratives, in the stories that they're telling themselves, and how you can get them to, if you can enter that where they're actually being with whatever the step of the process is in the marketing journey and the communication journey that you're trying to solve, then you will find it's much easier to get the increased responsiveness, to get the increased conversion rates at whatever the point is, to get the increased click-through rates, to get the increased EPCs, earnings per click, that type of thing.
That's right. That's right. There are a lot of different pieces to it. So, I mean, Joshua, let me ask you, if someone is facing this challenge of how do I really understand what my perfect clients or perfect customers are facing, practically speaking, right? Practically speaking.
I'm sorry, can you start that with just one more time? I was distracted, and I want to make sure that I'm listening to what you just said.
Well, do you have any specific tactical examples of how people can actually understand where their clients are at and what they need? Like how can someone actually implement this in their business?
Well, I guess it depends on what point they're looking to work on. And my advice would be different depending on what area is the biggest breakdown that they'd like to see fixed, and to trace back the elements to what is the mental conversations and where are they meeting people. If just a stupid, obvious example would be, if your tribe and followers are vegans, you're certainly not going to talk to them about joining you in the Steak of the Month Club, the Meat of the Month Club, because that's not something that's a part that meets with their narrative. Now, obviously, that's an extreme example, but it's the same kind of mismatch, just farther upstream in the communication channel process, depending on what it is. So I mean, like if you give me a specific example, perhaps I could do a better job. And I know that we only got about 2 minutes.
Well, I'll throw a simple one out that anybody who has an established business and has made money in that business could do almost anyone could do immediately. All right. And it's super simple. And I found almost all business owners, myself included at points, have been very resistant to this. It's fascinating, which is call your customers and ask them how they're doing right now during COVID. Dun, 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 dun. So all you have to do is call them. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a dentist or a chiropractor or a massage therapist. It doesn't matter whether you're a psychotherapist or whether you sell pizza. I love people who sell pizza. You could have a food cart.
Stop it. We have another 2.5 hours before I can eat.
That's right. You could have a window washing service. You could have a gas station. Anything, okay? If you have your customers' contact information, ask them how they're doing and if there's anything you can do to help. And if you don't have their contact information, let's say you run a convenience store, why don't you start asking your customers as they walk in? Okay, so if you have an email list but you don't have customers, you still have people you can talk to. And so in all seriousness,
And I think also, let me just interject something here. I think that's the larger issue, because I think people are pretty good at figuring out what's going on inside the minds of their current buyers so that they can apply that there. But where they stop and forget is the journey from becoming a complete stranger to trusting you enough in the first place to make that first purchase with you.
Absolutely.
And that's the part that people miss, especially if they want to have a process that will work within the paid advertising medium that goes beyond just referral marketing.
That's right. I fully agree. I fully agree. And with that said, I think we're going to call it for the day because we have some training to do.
And if you want to go deeper on this, by the way, watch the live stream that I did yesterday with the walkthrough, because I addressed a lot of this with a specific case study walkthrough of one of my processes that I'm actually building out right now. And if you want to see an example of some of it, you can see how it's actually being put into action accordingly. So I highly recommend going back to either inside, if you're watching it in the Art of Email Marketing, you can find it there. You can also find it on my personal profile. I think you can find it on some of Telman's areas. I don't think we were live on his personal profile. Anyway, I digress.
Awesome. Hey, Carl, by the way, good to see you. Gene, good to
Carl.
see you as well. All right, everybody. We are going to call it for the day, but we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Telman. Talk to you.
And thank you, Troy, by the way, for sharing in your group.
Oh, yeah. I meant to say that, too. Thank you, Troy. I have not been doing a good job of figuring out how to pre-notify this. And maybe we can, well, it's something to consider downstream.
All right. Rock and roll. Have a great day.